Roslyn, it's so wonderful to have you here with us. So CPAC, is this your, I take it this isn't your first rodeo?
It's my third time, actually. Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And each year, you know, there's a different theme or a different vibe. And this year it's about freedom. And I mean, they're amongst many issues, but that was all of the discussions today have been about different aspects of freedom and how conservatives are working together to maintain freedom of life, of liberty, prosperity, enterprise.
One of my favorite topics.
Internet, I'm about internet freedom, actually.
Not surprised you work for AI then.
Yes, absolutely. Freedom of enterprise is very important in all ways.
So why don't we talk today a little bit about how the Communist Party of China, with Huawei as a proxy, development into the digital sphere, especially 5G, threatens all of that.
Yes, well, you know, you might not know this, but Huawei files more patents than any company in the world. 100,000 patents.
I did not know that.
Yes, it's pretty scary. So, you know, but Huawei is an extension of the communist government and military, and so they are the largest maker of internet equipment. That's the routers and servers and towers that supply mobile networks. Now, there are Western companies who make this equipment, but Huawei, because of the financing of the Chinese government, they can deliver their equipment 1/3 cheaper than their competitors. So, fortunately, in the United States, we haven't had this equipment in our networks. Companies like Verizon, they saw this as a threat a long time ago, so they have a clean network. This equipment's not in there. But it is present in European networks and Canadian networks and other countries. So when we want to cooperate with our allies, our data, our information is at risk. Now, I would say it's not just Huawei that's an issue. ZTE, Lenovo, the largest maker of laptop computers. So all of these things are a concern.
Lenovo used to be IBM. Isn't it still branded? Right. Is it branded as? No, it's not branded as IBM.
They bought it some years ago, as well as Motorola Mobility, and this has been a strategy of China. That equipment, that technology they couldn't steal, they purchased outright, and in the future their goal is to be completely independent of American technology while they get all of us addicted to their cheap products. So the important thing that we need to know is we have to keep that equipment out of our networks, and we have to encourage alternatives.
So this is the thing that strikes me. Isn't it obvious that we shouldn't be taking equipment from communist China and using it here?
Absolutely.
I mean, one would think, but so why isn't that obvious? Why isn't that so clear to everybody? And how is it that this is? We have all sorts of systems in America that are actually using, computer and similar equipment. And this is mind-blowing to me.
It is.
How does that happen?
Well, and it's even when you consider that the intelligence agencies of the Five Eyes countries, the Anglophone, Australia, Canada, UK, they've known this since 2005, that there were backdoors in these equipment where the Chinese government can surveil. So basically it's been, unfortunately, if we go back to President Clinton, his policy was business is business. So we're not going to, as long as we can trade and get American, we're not going to worry about the threat of the human rights violations or the threat of surveillance and so on. So the good news is we've had more progress in the last 2 years than in the last 20 in terms of President Trump is taking a stand on this. He's brought it up. Our Congress, there's a bill in the House, HR 4747. You have a lot of senators standing up to say, we need to do more.
This is a bipartisan issue.
Absolutely.
Probably the most bipartisan issue I can think of off the top of my head.
Yes, I mean, I will say that for Democrats, they also care that, they don't want Chinese espionage in our networks either. So they are doing something about it, but what, we have to be tougher on this issue.
Just been asleep at the wheel for 20 years? Is that the
Unfortunately. I mean, that's what it was. I mean, Clinton started this business is business policy, Bush took it on, and the Obama administration knew this and wasn't, I think that they tried to make some, to make some statements, but I suspect it was they cared more about China signing the Paris Accords than protecting our people from, Communist Party espionage.
So maybe break it down for me just a little bit more. Is it quite simply, is the issue just simply that if I have an electronic device that's manufactured by a Chinese company, it can be used to surveil me?
Right.
I get that.
So there are two scenarios. One is like the cyber Pearl Harbor, right? The cyber attack on the electric grid, right? So that's not as likely as what we call the cyber trench warfare. Okay. This is the everyday, below the radar, soft targets, your local government, school, hospital, where it's a combination of sabotage, where you might have equipment that will on purpose break,
fail.
fail at some point in the future. You don't want that in your airplane, for example.
Right.
Other things is surveillance, right? Theft, right? Information, military information, commercial information, trade secrets, that sort of thing. And so that's the kind of, that's the sort of a threat. But you can also say, you know, within China today, they have these systems deployed on their internet, which is, you know, any kind of communications between people are rated. You know, they're surveilled through social media. They have a rating from the government, how good of a party loyalist you are, that kind of thing. You know, that's all going on. So it's sort of that level. And, you know, and it isn't, I don't want to scare the viewers here, but even things like a knockoff smartwatch, you know, for $10 you can buy on Amazon, could have this kind of...
It's very attractive.
Yes, yeah, and it's more about, the part of makes it so difficult is this sort of sneaky way in that we don't even think about every day, right? And the part is, we buy a lot of stuff from China. It's pretty, you know, so what I would say is, it's difficult, we can't lock down everything, so let's at least start with the largest, those companies that we do know are issues, you know, as I said, LTE, Huawei, Lenovo, that are making hardware where, you know, the risks have been identified. Start with that, and then, you know, and then the other part is we have to keep the soft power going as well in the trade negotiations, you know, getting China to, you know, the other part, one thing we can say about President Trump is his policies are in some ways breaking the Chinese party's hold on power. I mean, their economy is slowing because of the tariffs, you know, we are standing up to them. So in the short run, that means they will double down on power, but in the long run, you know, my hope is that the dissidents, you know, who use your media, I'm so happy about that, but the people in China themselves just stand up to it.
So, okay, I have two questions in my mind. The first one, are you worried at all about President Trump signing a deal with China because, well, let's just say the Communist Party isn't known for respecting the deals it signs?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm absolutely aware of that, and I would be extremely skeptical just because of the past history. I mean, with other countries we could trust and verify. With China we can't do that because we have verified many times, so we should not trust them. I know that there's a pressure to get some trade deals done because we're going into an election. I have been confident of President Trump doing the right thing, and I want him to stay tough. And you saw him, he walked away from a deal in North Korea, and I hope he keeps his attitude as the supreme deal maker.
Yeah, I mean, something that struck me about that move is I think Xi Jinping noticed that. Yes,
I agree. You know, you cannot be afraid, and I think that's another part of why the Chinese have taken advantage of us, because we had leaders in the past who said, okay, you know, well, we agreed we'd do that, and then they break the agreement, and then you just keep going. So if you were in a romantic relationship with someone who did that, you know, you allow someone to take advantage of you, it's your own fault. So we fortunately have President Trump who's willing to stand up to the Chinese.
I forget, I was just reading recently, someone actually made that point, that one of the biggest challenges in dealing with the Chinese Communist Party is there's just been so much acceptance over a really long period of time of utterly outrageous things, to the point where it's almost like they feel they might deserve it, or like, what? Hey, why can't we do these crazy things anymore?
Yeah, that's the hilarious thing. You know, the CEO of Huawei stands up in the Mobile World Congress and like, how dare you, America? You know, how you're the hypocrite and so on. They feel offended that we asked for them to respect our agreement. So this is the new. But here's the thing: when you want to make a change, you got to stay with it. You have to keep being tough about it, and you know, I'm 100% behind our president to do that.
So, and the second question is 5G.
Yes.
You know, we've been hearing about 5G. I think a lot of people don't even understand exactly what 5G is, but let's say the next generation
of mobile
high-speed mobile technology communication. China is developing a standard around 5G. Of course, it's developing in the US through several companies. Why is China specifically dominating 5G? We've covered it a little bit, but I think it's it creates a specifically interesting threat. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yes, absolutely. So 5G, the fifth generation, everybody probably knows 4G. 5G is like 100 to 1,000 times faster than 4G. And it also means a change in our industrial applications. So where we know 4G is using our smartphones, 5G is like the internet to the oil field or to the farm or to any kind of industrial application, the railroad, whatever you can think of. of.
Right.
It's about bringing all of those systems online and getting out the efficiencies. So 5G is actually a global standard, even though the Chinese do participate in those agreements. All countries, through the International Telecommunications Union and 3GPP and these other, they work on it together. But what I will tell you is China they have a vision to be, to dominate this standard through the equipment, through the phones, through the technologies, and their equipment is already around the world to do this, and they're selling it today. They had their 5G phones at the Mobile World Congress this week. So, fortunately, the United States has caught up in that our Federal Communications Commission is fast-tracking the deployment of 5G. So small cells in your community, they have created a policy that you can get those things up quickly. And then to keep the cost of deployment slow, to keep the cost low. And the reason that we need that is in China there's no dissent, right? The government just says we're going to have this, and that's what everybody gets. Now, China has more internet users than we do. Everybody has a mobile phone. Their mobile app industry is bigger than ours. It eclipsed us 3 years ago. So fortunately, in the past 2 years, the FCC's closed the gap tremendously, but we still have to do more to get this equipment deployed. And we are smarting from the last administration. All they wanted to do was regulate the internet like China, and this administration is interested in getting investment, getting the equipment out there, starting to get these technologies going. Verizon, AT&T, they have multiple cities that are deploying the technology. So, it's very exciting. It's a substitute for wireline. So if you don't want to use cable, you can use 5G. You get your signal through the air. So it's very exciting.
Absolutely. And so how is that? You said the FCC has been closing the gap. What exactly does that mean?
The gap meaning in terms of who can be first to get their nation up on 5G.
Okay.
So, and China they've had a vision for this since 2015 of, leading in telecommunications and in these standards. So their ability to make sure that every town gets these networks. Now what we have, unfortunately, in the US, we have a lot of blue states who basically have an anti-Trump stance and say, well, we don't want these networks here. Or if you want it, you're going to have to pay 5 times the market rate or whatever. It's the most anti-American against the enterprise and ability for us to compete and evolve and also enjoy competition, right? Enjoy the networks, more capabilities, more technologies.
So are they more protecting the existing structures, let's say, or are they just against the president?
Well, both. In the sense that they are perpetuating a status quo, which, actually Americans we have wonderful mobile internet economy. It's, hundreds of billions of dollars. It employs several million people. It's been a huge success. But you know what? People in rural areas would like to have this. We have, and
presumably, Verizon, the biggest, and all these companies are involved.
Right. Well, absolutely. Yeah. We still have 70% of our economy to digitize. So there's a lot of room left. To bring to the mobile. So the thing is, you've got a tablet there. Yeah. We're talking about everything in the smart buildings. This is really the Green New Deal, is bringing connectivity to everything, and the private sector is driving it. That's what's really exciting. The role of government here is to speed the rollout of that, and also to stop the local government cronies who want to siphon off the value for themselves. So they want to say, oh, put up that tower, well, line my pockets, and this kind of thing.
Roslyn, I could talk to you all day about this stuff.
Well, I hope we get another chance.
I'm going to have to invite you back.
Absolutely.
Enjoy CPAC. I hope I'll see you more.
Thank you.
Have a
Such
wonderful
a pleasure.
Day.